Hi there, it's Marlene Hielema from ImageMaven.com. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the creative control mode of the Lumix G9. Now this will work in all Lumix cameras, at least all the cameras I have. Welcome back, subscribers, and if this is your first time here, thanks for checking me out. I teach photography, photo editing, a little bit of lighting, and I'm a huge fan of Lumix cameras. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. So in creative control mode, you set up different image effects, kind of like Instagram filters or Snapseed filters. They're kind of wild, some of them, and some of them are more subtle than others, and some of them are really extreme. So, use with caution, like anything filterish, because they kind of go in and out of style as well. But if you want to have some fun, and maybe, in this time, if you're stuck at home or stuck close to home, maybe you're not working right now and you have some time to play with your camera, it's kind of fun and adds a little extra level of creativity to your photos. I'm going to go into the menus and show you how to set these up, and I'm going to show you lots of sample photos as well. All right, let's get going. First things first, put your camera on creative control mode, and that looks like a little painter's palette and brush. So what you notice here right away is that the filter you've selected is noted here, just the abbreviation of it. And I'm going to go into it more later, but just so you know, if you click into that, you get a choice of all the other filters. But let's look at the quick menu first, just like we did with our last two modes that we went over. So here we have focus settings, AFS and AFF choices. You have a choice between RAW and JPEG or RAW plus JPEG, image size and image proportion, video size and quality, exposure compensation, and the metering mode. You don't have a choice with the exposure here. It's like automatic exposure. If you push the white balance button on the top of the camera, you don't actually have white balance. What it shows you are different variations within each of the filters. Pushing the ISO button on the top of the camera doesn't do anything, but if you push the exposure compensation button, you also get the features of bracketing. So I have a whole other video about bracketing, but right now this is what that is all about right there. Okay, so if you push the FN button there, the function button, you have the choices similar to the AI Plus mode and the AI mode, but what I suggest you do is push this little symbol, which is the creative control symbol, and you get some options. Now, some of the options change depending on what filter you're in at the time. But in this case, if I push the middle button here, what that allows me to do is change the relationship between f-stop and shutter speed. So if I want shallow depth of field, I would put it at a larger f-stop, and if I wanted deep depth of field, I would go to a smaller f-stop. So in this case, I'm just going to leave it on f5.6 at a 60th of a second. The top symbol here works the same as pushing the white balance button on the top of the camera, and that gives you your choices of variation between the filter. And to change that, you just turn the wheel on the back of the camera. You can also click the wheel. You can push it down with your thumb. And that about covers the setup. What you might want to do though is look into the menus. And one thing you can see is that it will show the filter effect in the menu. So you have to go right into that menu. And you can also record with or without the filter. So what that means is you get a filtered version and a unfiltered version. But if you're shooting RAW plus JPEG, you are not able to select an unfiltered version because a RAW file doesn't have the filters applied. I'll show you what I mean. I'll go back to the quick menu, change that to JPEG, go back into our menus, and you can see that I can record with and without the filter at the same time. Okay, let's take our first image. And there we go. Okay, so as I mentioned before, you can do some variations within each of the filters. So I'm going to push the white balance button here, and I'm going to take one photo at one end of the spectrum there, and push white balance again, and go through and take another one. Now this gives a very vivid result. And to change filters, you click the filter shortcut symbol. You can also get into that through the menus. So retro, As you can imagine, kind of gives an old film look. Old days, I have to say, I like the old days filter. I think it's lots of fun. And it has various levels of saturation in there. High key lighting, super high key, and different sort of colors of high key lighting. Low key, just the opposite, so really low tone lighting. And again, very dark, low key. Sepia, a favorite. And different contrast levels of that sepia. Monochrome. Cool monochrome and warm monochrome. So the warm monochrome looks similar to sepia. Dynamic monochrome. So that has different contrast levels. Okay, next across, rough monochrome. Rough monochrome is one of my favorites actually, and it gives you really crunchy images. So here's the basic one, the low end, and then it gets rougher as you go, and you can see that it's got high granularity. Now let's zoom in on this, and you can see, maybe even on this video, how really rough it is. So that's kind of neat, the rough monochrome. Silky monochrome, as you can imagine, is very soft focus. And you can change the contrast level on that as well. Next up, we have impressive art, and it has different levels of saturation as well. Impressive art is kind of fun to play with on landscapes, but in the studio, in a little tabletop setup like this, it doesn't look all that great to me. Next across, high dynamic. So what that does is it will open up your shadows. And in this case, it has different levels of saturation. I actually used this filter quite a bit in my testing. I quite liked it. Cross process. Well, if you're a film person, back in the day, we used to take slide film and process it in negative chemicals and vice versa. And you can choose your color flavor of the cross processing as well. Next, toy effect. So this is a toy camera effect, and toy cameras typically have a lot of vignetting because they have cheap lenses. So that's what we're getting here, and you can change the color tone. So we have like a warm tone and a cool tone. Toy pop, again, with the heavy vignetting, and it goes in and out with the vignetting. So it's quite a saturated image to start with. Next across, bleach bypass. So again, we have different levels of contrast, but it's sort of a bleached out image, so we've lost some of the color. Next across, miniature effect. So we can change the focus area. That part of the image, that slice, will be in focus. And again, you can change the color settings in that as well, the saturation. So make sure you look into the settings of each of the filters to see if there's something that you missed. Now, soft focus, soft and not so soft. Fantasy kind of gives, similar to soft focus, it kind of has a bit of a blue tone to it, sort of a cool tone. Star filter. Star filter is actually kind of fun to play with. One thing you can do with star filter is change the size of the stars, and that's kind of neat as well. So make sure you dig deep into these filters just to see if there's any other variations you can create with them. This can be overused as well, so just keep that in mind. Okay, next on the list is one-point color. So let's go into that one. With one-point color, what you want to do, you definitely want to get into the deep menus with that. So push the symbol here, and at the top you can see that we have an eyedropper. So with the eyedropper, what you're doing is selecting the color that you want. So when we select that green, everything else is monochrome except for the green. So when we take our picture, play it back, just so you can see, everything's monochrome except the color that we chose. And I really had the most fun playing with this filter. Let's do another color. I'll show you what I mean. So eyedropper, let's put the eyedropper on the orange one. Let's go back into this and you can change some of the saturation of the color that you chose. So now I have some red in this photo and some yellow, and they are part of the orange family, so to speak. So when we take this photo, play that back, you have this photo that only shows the orange coloring. Orange, red, yellow, so basically a little bit of a range. So I really had a lot of fun playing with 1-point color, so definitely do some experimenting within that filter. And lastly, on the G9 we have Sunshine. Now Sunshine also has another selection you can make, and you can choose where you want the sunshine coming from. You can put it in any corner of the image, anywhere on the image actually, and it kind of helps if you actually have a light source, but we'll pop it in that corner. And also if you push the white balance button down, you can change the tone of your image as well. So you get sort of a blue tone, red tone, yellow tone, or just neutral. That's the white one right here. So if you wanted to have a warm, sunny look, you can take a photo that way. So that's something I would definitely use outside, not inside, but hey, it depends on what you're creating. So yeah, that was a pretty extensive deep dive into the menu. Definitely play with all of these creative control filters yourself. They are so much fun. I was outside for over 2 hours testing out all these different filters, and I really have to say that I had a blast. Oh, and I almost forgot, many of these filters can also be used with video mode. And what you have to do is push the red video button on the top of the camera, and then you can record video. So that's kind of fun too. And here's something else. During your video, you can actually change the settings while the video is recording so that your video, it kind of has like a transition. So, I mean, the creative possibilities are endless, and that's why I love the creative control mode of Lumix cameras. When you go into playback mode, you can see the filter that you used for each photo. So here we have the old time, and here we have high key, low key, etc. Now it won't tell you which setting within that filter, but it will tell you which filter you used. And if you hit the display button, you can see more information about the photo, including the histogram, ISO, f-stop, shutter speed, the date you took the photo, the file name, number, and other things within the photo. So yeah, so that's something to keep in mind if you need to review your photos and see what settings you used. Also, get a deep dive into your other menus as well, and you're going to find out that you can do some 4K, 6K things, and something really fun is that you can do time-lapse animations using the creative control filters. So there's still some functionality within the camera, but some of the settings are limited. What you might want to do is maybe on your next photo walk, you pop into some of those creative control modes and play with some of the filters and, you know, see what you can do. It'll add a whole new dimension to your photo walk, and you get to have a little fun with your camera. Because you know what? It's not always about serious, perfect pictures. It's kind of nice to play a little bit too. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time, and please stay safe.